Radio. This is the Reverend Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Dios lo bendiga. Este es Reverendo Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Welcoming you to another broadcast. At this hour, we have our bilingual broadcast, our teaching in English and Spanish. So we ask that you be patient as we translate live on the fly between languages. Esta es la hora que damos la enseñanza en inglés y español y pedimos que tengas pues paciencia mientras que traduzcamos de un idioma al otro. Aproveche y aprende el otro idioma. While we're at it, you can learn the other language as well. Es un beneficio de sintonizarse con nuestro ministerio. It's a benefit, an added benefit, I should add, of tuning in to our ministry.
God bless you and God keep you all. Today is our final teaching of the 2024 year, and we've reached the end of November with this teaching. And get ready, because this teaching is an eye-opener. We're going to talk about how God made man today on this segment. How God made man, and it's not the way you think it is. So we're going to be talking about that today. A little bit housekeeping before we go on. Last week, this week really, but it'll be last week when you see this. I had to go to the hospital because I had a concern. I had a rough night, and I couldn't sleep without taking some extra powerful Tylenol. And I also had some type of issue going on with one of the pinky toe of the pinky toe of my right foot. So I thought it was a nail issue, So, but anyway, since I have other issues going on, and my wife was going to go to New York in a week and a half or so, and we have kids here, so I'm concerned about them having, care all the way through, right, while my wife isn't here. So I thought it best to go to the hospital, have the emergency room, and have them check me out. I didn't feel good at all. I felt an inner trembling inside my body, and I said this could be something happening. But I asked for prayers as I went that morning. I put it up on Facebook, and people began to pray, obviously. And they took x-rays, they checked me out, and everything was okay. They gave me some antibiotics just in case. And so that's where we stand today. I had a better evening last night after that. So, basically I had a very good evening last night. I've done something last night that I haven't done in I would say a couple of years now, which is I was able to troubleshoot some software, all the way through the wee hours of the morning, all the way till 4 a.m. this morning, when I finally had a breakthrough and was able to, troubleshoot some issues with some software code. And I couldn't do that, before this issue, before the prayers, and before the antibiotics. This was a far stretch for me to accomplish. Not when I was younger, though. Yeah, right. But a recent couple of years, this wasn't happening. I used to be able to work all night through, and I still do, but I don't like troubleshooting software. That was something that was totally lost to me. But yeah, last night was a difficult night of solving the coding issues. But I was able to, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I finally got everything to do what I wanted it to do. And I called it a night, and I was surprised. But, something kept me going on this. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to solve this tonight. And so it was. So anyway, I wanted to share that with everyone so that you understand, hey, listen, I'm a human being and these things occur. Keep me in your prayers. My time is, I'm getting there, right? So time is a factor here for us. But speaking of this, I want to talk about get into today's class. It's going to be a shocker. Today I'm going to reveal to, I guess, new people what, my church already has heard this teaching. But a lot of you haven't. So, and this is for the world out there, a shocking concept that we're going to be talking about. And that is the original state of man. Now, we've done our evolution. This will end the evolution series. When we get back in the new year 2025, we will not be dealing with this series any longer. I don't know if we'll be back in the Holy series. Most probably. I want to get back to it to continue our examination through the Word of God about the true meaning of the word holy. But the main crux of the concept is already done. We've already gone through the Torah and studied how Torah handles the word holy. We study things in Egypt and where Israel came from and originated from, in concerning that the actual meaning of holy and God's treatment of it in the Holy Scriptures. But that's a series that we still have to go through the Bible, and we haven't even touched the New Testament. But it is, I think it was last week I did mention a little bit of the the issue of holiness, or the term holy, in regards to last week's teaching. So there's a lot of overlap here. So in today's teaching, we're going to examine how God's creation of man. Remember that in our evolution series, we are not denying evolution occurred. We are espousing that the original plan of God, or at least the first phase of God's plan for mankind, was evolution. In other words, evolution was part of the program for whatever reasons. It was and the main reason for it is the issue of God using what he already created. He created a fabric. It's almost like if you're going to create a painting, then it makes sense that you're using certain type of medium. Let's say, why does an artist use a particular type of medium? So again, most of you hearing this have no idea. What are you talking about? You have no idea about what an artist would be considering about, when he's making a painting, for example, for this example that we're using. What's the thing? Just get a medium or a canvas. You would think about a canvas and get some paint, but no, it's not that simple. An artist thinks about what they want to do. The artist understands, and most of you should be able to understand that, all paintings are not done on canvas. Not all of them. There are paintings done on other materials. And why would someone choose like wood or a clay tablet or, canvas, right? Is very typical. Or glass, painting on glass. Why would someone choose a different medium? That means what you're painting on. And not only that, but also the materials you use to actually do the painting. Why would someone choose charcoal, for example, over colored pencils or colored pens or pencils, or even pens for that matter, paints, right, or dyes? There's different things that can be used to put the color on. And then also, what is the color? What are you using? Why would an artist have to think about, do I want to use oil paint? Do I want to use watercolor paint? Do I want to use, some type of dye? And then also even to, what am I going to do to apply the color to the the substrate, the canvas or the paper or the clay tablet or the wood pan, or what am I going to, or the stone even, right? Anything can be used. But you have to realize that all these things change the way it comes out, right? Think about also the way you apply the paint. Major people think painting is with a brush, or it doesn't have to be. There's other things that you can use to paint with. There's cotton balls, there are feathers, right? There are other things that can be used to dip into the color or whatever you're using and then apply it to the substrate that you're painting on. And in each of these decisions, then you have, of course, what paint you're going to use, what colors. You have how we're going to start this depiction. I'm sure some of you have seen, like, what's his name, Ross's famous painting programs on TV, and you see sometimes he would start painting the whole canvas white, and other times he would paint it all black or dark blues and blacks, and just spread it all out there as the beginning. And then on top of that begin to form the images that he is wanting to. And why would he do that? And you see that after he develops his concept, it's just wonderful, right? At first, but realizing that first he applied that first, couple of layers of background, foundation, and color. You have to realize that there's some people who do art, they just make it all black, and then they go scraping, and actually, they're not painting the image, they're actually scraping the image on, from a already painted background. And even that is a technique in addition to painting that a lot of people do, all right? So there's so many different ways of creating art. So you have to realize that these are things that an artist understands, and an artist can appreciate what I'm talking about now. Understand, oh yeah, it's not just about making something, it's how you go about making it. So again, what is the substrate that God used to create man? And that substrate, and to have all his creation, and all of his creation is on top of this canvas called time. Okay? Very important, time and space, but mainly that time is a main factor. So you have to ask yourself, why would God decide to do something on a canvas called time and then create without it? It doesn't make sense, because we know that the canvas is part of the outcome of what you're doing. It does affect the final product, and the final product is part and parcel of the substrate. I'm looking right now at this wonderful large painting that we have here in the dining room. I'm looking at it. A very large canvas. It's probably almost my height. It's very big. Wonderful. It covers a good portion of the wall, and as you look at the hallway, you see it. It's a central part of the wall behind the walkway there. So it's something you would expect to see, down the hall in the White House or something. They have this long hall or a hotel, and you see that painting at the end of the hall that fills up that panel there. So that's basically something like we have here. You have to realize that when you're looking at it, most of you just look at, it's a painting. You're looking at it just as a picture of something, right? A scenery. But actually, if it was done on brick, if it was done on stone, if it was done on wood, it would be the image, right? But it would have a different character too, because obviously, as the artist chose to paint it on these materials, he chose it because the material would add to the image that they are, painting, they are creating. So this is a reasoning for choosing the substrate, right? As well with all the other things. And it's incredible to me how people don't think about that. In all these discussions that people have about the creation, even in the debates that we have in atheist groups and whatnot, or debate groups where theists debate with atheists and vice versa. It's incredible. I've rarely, if ever, seen a discussion based on an artist's or creator's point of view, right? And, again, because very few people in the population of the planet are actually creators themselves. People who create things, people who write books, people who create artwork, people who program software, and I do those. I'm a composer. I do software. I do some type of art. I wouldn't tell you I'm an artist, but I can do things. I can't draw a circle for beans, though. That I really admire people who have that delicate and steady hand to create fascination. But I can't do that. I'm pretty much a technological cut and paste type of artist. But I can do certain things. I did this, by the way. This logo was done using, I was a printer back in the day and had my print shop, and we had clip art. I used to subscribe to a clip art service. And this was these are two images that I put together and made the logo for the church. You see that? So that's the type of stuff I'll do. I have a concept and I put things together, paste, and call it a day. Okay, but but that's my level of creative, creations, and but that's it. Okay, but musically, I can compose music. As someone says, straight hair music. which is orchestrations, things like that. More serious music. Serious. Okay. So so I'm a creator in that sense. Write books, manuscripts, I should say. I'm doing these videos. I do series. I create educational series and formats and whatnot. I do my first documentary. I've been planning it for a while, but now with the Atheism Must Move Beyond series, I'm going to make the 3-part series into a documentary, and so that'll be my first film. So we're going into different things, right? But as a creator, though, I understand. You see, when I read Genesis, it intrigues my creative thread, my inclinations towards creativity. And so you can't read Genesis 1 and just read it like your typical Bible story. A creator reads Genesis 1 and you have to see it at a deeper level, at least as an artist's perspective. And so that's very different than most people, because most people are not creators. I asked a question, also this is very relevant, and pay close attention to the things that I'm saying here, because they're integral to understanding. So you need to really, understand each of these concepts. But, I did post in one of these forums. I posted an example or an analogy of an author or a painter, for that matter, an artist who creates a work, but that work becomes self-aware. So I brought an hypothesis into the works, and I asked the question: what would you think that the creation would understand of its creator? Because the only things we know is that it was created. We are told that, right? But if it became self-aware, and the best way to look at this is like a book. Think of a book that you read in your lifetime, and if you had the power to make the book come alive, become self-aware, see, what would be the parameters? What would be the condition of the awareness of that book, of that creation, and the characters in it, assuming that there were human characters in it with, that would be self-aware and become self-aware. And, and the atheists and the ones who cared to respond, they really couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the question. And it means that really you cannot, they don't think abstractly. They can't think or reason. Really, it's what's happening, because all you have to do is reason, the same reasoning we have in life. Just reason it given these parameters. That shouldn't be difficult for people with a brain. Just simply the same thing in life, but with this or that parameter added to it. And all you had to do was look at the book, and accept for the examination, for the hypothesis, for this analysis, accept that book, and when I say book, I'm not talking about the covers of the book, right? Remember, the covers are the delimiters. They are the ends of the book, the limits, the borders, the boundaries. See, these are the things you have to when you're looking at a book. You have to realize it has boundaries, and anything that becomes self-aware are on the pages, not outside, in the pages, because that is the content that was created by the creator. Okay, so they really couldn't handle this thinking. I broke it apart. I'm breaking it down here. I didn't bother breaking it down for them because, again, I was asking the question to see what the level of capacity, of flexibility, or I would say agility in the thinking process, most of these folks have. And, I tested the environment. And I saw that most people can't think to that level. Again, they came back, some of them with you have these mental gymnastics, and this is ridiculous. And, in issues of philosophy and thinking, you can't be, that's the same thing calling, Elon Musk a nerd. He's rich, okay? Let's be real. He makes more money than all of y'all, all right? So, scrap the nerd baloney and deal with the facts, okay? So, again, you see it in the atheist group, the same thing. It's like a group of misbehaving school children laughing at the nerds. Oh, those are the nerds. Yeah, so that's basically what you have. It's unfortunate. And I'm sure I'm not talking about, they're not the example of all atheists. I just like to communicate with a real, down-to-earth, atheist that has a brain. That's all. But most of these guys here are really just silly school children. They really don't have the capacity to deal with it. Now, if you guys do, you feel that you have the capacity to deal with that question, I'd be happy to entertain your response on that. But in any case, now all of you can engage. I'm going to show you how simple this was. Because mysteriously, just recently, I did this about a year and a half ago, probably maybe 2 years ago, I posted this on that forum. But quite interestingly, there's a movie on Netflix called, I believe it's called Harold and the Purple Crayon. If you haven't seen it, you have to go see. Everyone, this is a must-see film. And it's supposedly based on the book, so therefore it's a must-read book. Get it, Amazon, wherever, library, find it, get it. All right. But this story is actually the question I posed to atheists. And this is all they had to do. It's really, and all you have to do now is just watch this movie. And look at it from the perspective it's showing you. It's showing you a creator creating a work. But the work is self-aware. And that was the simple question I asked. Who knows if the guy got it out of me, the idea? Who knows? I think the book was old already. I'm pretty sure. It predated me, although I've never read it and never heard about it. But if you see this, you can then look at the creator being the author of the work and the relationship that author had with the created characters. Okay. And you got to watch it. It's marvelous. But the idea is the question I posed. What if the work that you create becomes self-aware? And obviously the issue became, who is my creator? Okay, so that's basically what that movie is centered on, and exactly right. And but realize the limitations. So that's why you want to see this movie, because you want to also try to understand in it what the limitations are. Of course, it's a story, so there are certain freedoms that the creator allowed to happen, right? And realize that when we're talking about God creating the heavens and the earth, we don't have that same decision on the creative license, what the creator allowed his created beings to be able to do. Okay, so there's that difference, but that's where you're going to have to work on a little bit, is to actually make the comparison and extrapolate what God in the Bible says, and how it describes our relationship and our abilities, as opposed to what you see there on Harold and the Purple Crayon. But the whole issue, though, is that it's talking about the same stuff. It's the same thing. So I recommend that highly. Now, this question is applicative to what we're talking about when God decides to create. He creates creates this realm, this reality. He creates it on the canvas called time. So, how would that make his creation different, or how would that affect his creation? Well, that would definitely make everything he does time-based. And everything there is time-based, right? Everything in this reality is based on time. In other words, it is affected. It is riding on time. Time has its effect on everything that is in this reality, in this universe. So time is part of everything. Again, if the artist chooses time, so time for reality is what a canvas is for the artist, for the painter, right? So everything he paints, no matter what it is, that beautiful painting over there I'm looking at, it's still based on a canvas. Everything there will have the characteristics of the thing it's painted on. That's why when you have like paintings on glass, for example, it's shiny, it's slick, just like the glass it's painted on. It takes on that characteristic. And so everything has, if you're painting on wood, you'll see, the wood have an effect on the outcome of that painting. You'll see, on paper, and then if you choose watercolors, you see that the watercolor on paper gives the character to watercolor paintings. So it's all part of the package. You can't separate one from the other. So again, when you're looking at the creation of God, you need to understand immediately that everything that God made is time-based. So that when we're looking at, is evolution a thing that had anything to do with man or the creation of God? Because if you go by the Bible alone, you don't see God making monkeys or and then they develop over time into whatever. It doesn't tell you that. Again, why doesn't it do that? Because the Bible is not a science book. It's not a history book, dealing with pre-modern man history. It's neither something that is going into to a large degree. There are mentions here and there in the Bible of pre-modern man things or events. It does mention that. Only once or twice, 3 times. It's a handful, really, just a handful of events, 1 or 2 scattered here and there. Inferences, really, not even events, but just an indication that this may be talking about something that happened before God made Adam, right? But you do realize that the scripture does allow, it gives us ample time that miraculously or coincidentally, we can stuff the whole pre-dawn of man timeline into it. Who thought of that? Someone thought of that. You know, a lot of people say the caveman came up with the Genesis. This is pretty genius for a caveman to come up with, because they really created a Genesis that you can fit in millions and billions of years without a problem. That's amazing. But see, and then that's the issue. But we already taught about that. Again, why would God not use time in his creation when time is everything that it was based on? And you see it in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. In the beginning, right? God created. Now, he wasn't the beginning. It wasn't the beginning of God. It was in the beginning of all things. So that makes God previous to all things, and then makes God then previous to time itself, time, right? The construct of time, the substrate of time, and therefore makes God the constructor or the creator of time itself. What is time? So again, all of these questions become applicative to the fact that God created all these things. But some people can't, and a lot of people, I should say, if you're thinking about atheists now, a lot of them can't think beyond, a limited scope. And they cannot conceive, the Bible's talking about creation, but they cannot think of the Bible in a creative form. They don't, because they don't understand it. They don't understand creativity. They don't understand creation, how a person creates something. If they had that understanding, then they would be able to, to say, wow, this is really, And they probably wouldn't be atheists, to be honest. They would be maybe agnostic, right? They will have to be agnostic. So basically, in all these years of dealing with folks, I find the agnostic more intelligent, of more capacity than the atheist, right? Because the agnostic at least recognizes that they don't know enough to determine, because what they do know does not exclude the possibility, and especially of there being a God and a creator God, especially because when you're dealing with a creator, then you have issues. You have issues that you have to resolve, and you can't just excuse that away, because anything you can poke at, to say, well, it can't be. That's not what a creator is. You're denying the creator's creative ability when you do that. And then if you know that God is all powerful, then that's that. That's done. You can't. There's nothing that you could say. Now, all of the comments the atheists make are against Christian or religious, not just Christian, but religious dogma, religious teaching, and that's fine. I do that too every Sunday here. Okay, so me and the atheist, we're very much alike because we do attack religious thinking because most of religious thinking is nonsense. Okay, it's based on ignorance. And that gives atheists like fuel, and I look at it, says it's not fuel, it's actually intellectual, truths that do not exclude God. The problem is that you're using a limited scope, a limited understanding, to then discard the concept of a created God, and you're doing that out of ignorance, and that's not good. It's not intelligent. The agnostic at least doesn't do that. So, but I'm not here to talk about atheists and agnostics. I'm here to talk about man. So we ended the teaching with evolution, and we're ending it with this teaching, but up to now, the last things that we had concluded was that God created man, or the pre-human forms, as part of the time factor, time basis, and that is the evolutionary manner. So that evolution is a thing. It is what God created in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. He created it. We showed all of this already. If you haven't seen it, you got to go back and look at the series. The premise here is that when God said that, he meant that. Everything was created. He put in the time fact. Everything is based on time. So for God, it's not a problem to wait millions of years for his little, experiment or little creation to take form and to adapt and to evolve and all of those things. Just simply, the Bible does not exclude it. Then we gave you the gap theory, which it talks about verse 2, totally contradictory to what God is in the rest of the Bible. And so, again, and then it comes to verse 3 and the formation, or I should say the reforming, because, there's not things that are being created, all of them. Some things are being brought back, some things are being spoken into being, right, without there being stuff for them, right? So they're being spoken into existence, and other things are being brought forth from the earth, brought forth from the waters, and then other things are being made. So if you read the scripture, you'll see that there are things that are brought forth and other things that are made. And God does this all throughout the 7 time periods, okay, or the 6 time periods, ending now with man. The curious thing, and we did this, I think, the 2 Sundays ago, is that we showed how science coincides with God forming man from the dust of the earth. The curious thing is about DNA. There's DNA in the dust of the earth. So, God didn't make man from thin air. So a lot of people say, no, he made him on the dust of the earth so that he can return to the dust of the earth. But there's more to it than that. See, science tells you that there's more to it than that. And the location of the Garden of Eden. So we went through this 2 Sundays ago, 2 teachings. If this is like you don't know what I'm talking about, look for the teachings. Go through the teachings. That's another problem we have in today's society. You guys don't want to learn anything. Go through the teachings. You'll learn a bunch. Now, so now we have man. Now let's look at how God says that he made man. So let's go look for... Oh, this isn't, what's the Bible Gateway, the favorite online Bible Gateway. There you go. So let's get to this here. All right. So let's look at Genesis verse 1, and I believe it's 26. And what does the Bible says? And it says, and God said. Now, remember, let us simply accept for this hypothesis that God had created the heavens and the earth, and he put things in motion in time, because that's the canvas, that is the substrate. And so the intention of God to create man originally was through a time process, a process of time, which is evolution. That's what evolution is. Okay? And something, verse 2 tells us that something happened. Something went wrong, because verse 2 is nothing like anything that God creates. He never, ever in the Bible creates something like this in that manner. That's what I meant by saying like this. Obviously, how many times are you going to create the heavens and the earth? Well, I say twice. But if you're looking at it like this is the one big thing that God did, which I don't think it is. I think it is just a little thing that God made here. But again, people have their perspective. I'm looking at it from a more superior perspective. Not that I'm better than anyone, but if you're God, you're looking down on it instead of being a man and looking up at it, right? So the perspective here is what makes the difference. So, for me, all-powerful God doesn't mean, that he's more powerful than me. It means that I am nothing. I am nothing even close to what God is, okay? So I'm looking at, God is great and powerful, not just to my perspective, but in fact, okay? So in other words, that his love is great. You see, his love, that he takes us, this little thing, and he's so concerned about us little things. That's the greatness of his love, as opposed to that he's somebody maybe 2 degrees higher than us, and so that's the way I think most religious dogma views things. It views man as being, pretty much over here, and God just being just a little bit higher. He's all powerful. He has more power than us. He knows more than us, and this and that. Again, that human perspective brings God so close. And in my perspective, in the way I look at the scripture, God is so far advanced and so far away from us in knowledge and ability and nature, that what is the main saliency of God is his love, that even brings him into our lives in the way that he has. Simply because otherwise we're just little ants. Little microbes, in fact. And if you think about that, that we're like, you need a microscope to look at who we are in comparison to what God is. It's just humongous. But his love is so great that he's taking care of us. Those little puny things on that little puny planet over there. You understand? So this is the way I look at it. And so when we see that God then creates, he says that verse 2 happens, which is totally against the way God usually and can do things. Something's telling you that something is wrong. And then you see the way that he goes about creation. Again, taken from what's there and adding to it, taking from what's there and adding to it. We said, no, God created all these things. I didn't say that God did not form the fish of the sea, but I'm saying that as it says that the sea bring forth, that the life forms that were brought forth from what was already at one time before verse 2. That's what we're saying. And when God says, and let the earth bring forth, it's bringing forth what was already there before verse 2. That's all we're saying. Yeah, he brought it out. And, God formed them together from what was there. What was there? We showed you the science. The science shows you that what was there to bring forth was DNA. If you're a scientist and you're looking at the fossil record, what do you see? Nothing to be concerned with. What are you going to see? You see nothing to worry about. Do you see a complete, just modern animals just appeared out of nothing? And do you see just modern man appear out of nothing? No, you don't see that. What do you see? You see a continual progress from, I'm going to use the Bible now, but I'm just showing you how it fits. From Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, through modern man in verse 26. That's all you see. Is that what science sees? A progression from a beginning all the way to modern man? Yes, that's what science sees. All I'm saying is that the Bible also shows you or allows that to be what it is allowing for. It doesn't say it wasn't that way. It is open so that it can be that way, which happens to be the facts of life. So I'm sorry. You cannot debate against skeletons. These are skeletons. Okay? These were creatures that were alive at one time. And so now the assumption is that we come from, in other words, from generation to generation of slowly developing hominids until we get to modern man, right? The fossil record, the scientist has to agree, there is no smooth day-to-day sampling of the progression of man, of hominids into modern man. We can only assume because of the snapshots that we have through the fossil record. So you have a snapshot. It's just like a cartoon. How were cartoons made back in the day with Walt Disney? How did Walt Disney make his cartoons? How did he bring them to life? Sheet by sheet by sheet by sheet. Picture by picture by picture by picture. Fossil by fossil by fossil by fossil. Are you getting it now? Is that reality? No. But it looks real. See, because when you go together, it's all alive, right? Right, Mickey Mouse, right? It looks like that's life. It looks like life, but there is actually not, right? It's just shots, snapshots, frame by frame by frame. So what's to stop the artist from he stopped or some milk spilled or juice spilled on the drawing that he had right there where Neanderthal is and the Dosovian or whatever the name is. It got ruined. So why can't the artist come and say, okay, well, we got this one, and then we're going to go to modern man and draw in modern man, right? And make modern man, he takes from what? He takes from what he already did, from the dust of the ground, and he forms modern man. What's in the dust in the ground? Neanderthal DNA. The Soviet DNA. Forgive me, I just don't know these names. I didn't go into evolution as a career. But, you have this DNA, which is in the soil. Matter of fact, right next to, discovered, by the way, right next to the Garden of Eden, the supposed placement of the Garden of Eden, right in the neighborhood. God takes that soil and makes modern man. So what are scientists going to see? What they see today. What do they see today? They see modern man with some DNA from Neanderthal, from the Davisonian or whatever you call that. Let's look for that, because I don't like trying to let me look for this here. Let me open this in a new open link. Okay. Let's see this here. All right. Let's go to the evolution. And let's see. Let's see images. Images are the quickest way to see if they have the name here. I'm going to have to wait a little bit to see if these have. Okay, so here we have. So we have, at least this is some of them. But you have the Neanderthal man DNA. And you have Neanderthal, you don't see it, sorry. You have Neanderthal DNA right, open image, new tab. You have Neanderthal DNA right before Homo sapiens, Adam, modern man. You have Neanderthal. So what was in the ground? Can a scientist tell you or tell anyone that there was no Neanderthal DNA in the earth, in the soil, when Homo sapiens walked? You see that? They can't. They have to agree. Well, yes, but there's always DNA in the soil. DNA can last a very, very long time. And in that teaching, I showed you the scientific article where it says that the DNA can last for millions of years. So that's it, done deal. So when God says that he brings forth, and we're not only talking about human DNA here, we're talking about all the animals, all the evolutionary phases of all the mammalia and all the types, even the vegetation. We're talking about DNA enduring for millions of years under the right conditions. So no, that you can't argue that. If you know science, you can't argue that. Okay, so when God forms man, what are you going? Is it going to be a surprise? Does it mean that God didn't make man just because there's Neanderthal DNA and Homo erectus DNA, or just that? I don't see here the image for that Davisonian or something like that. I know it starts with a D. But I'm trying, I don't see anything mentioning that here. Let's see if this one does. You got the Heidelbergensis, but I don't see the other mention. But in any case, you get the idea. The idea is that no matter what, what the Bible is depicting through the talented genius of cavemen, according to atheists, obviously describes what science is seeing now. The question is science right by saying that this cartoon is real? See? Or are we right in saying that these are phases, they were phases, and evolution is what was happening until a certain period of time? And that the Bible describes, as in verse 2, very clearly, also agreeing with science data. And then we have a reforming of the heavens and earth as is described in the Genesis 1 account. So I don't call it the creation account. I call it the recreation. It is creation. Verse 1 is creation, and the rest is recreation. Not recreation, but recreation. Meaning the reforming of the heavens and earth after something bad happened. There's so much evidence that something bad happened, and I'm not going to spend the time here. There's so much scientific proof that bad things happen to the earth. I mean, come on. I don't have to defend that. Simply. So no one can argue. You see, you can't argue with what I'm saying. Okay, the only ones who can argue are the people who want to use their ignorant interpretation of Scripture and hold on to that, ignoring the science that God Himself created. You are fighting against the science that God created, and by His Word, in fact. So, as I spoke about, you guys are actually going against God by not accepting science. Now, I'm not talking about the far stretches of science. Science is just inquiry. So, you don't have to accept the inquiry. We don't have to accept the hypotheses. Okay? But fossils are fossils, man. Fossils are fossils. And we need to accept the Word of God as it is written. And it is saying, bring forth from the dust of the earth, formed. And if He's forming it, if we all agree that God formed man from the dust of the earth, from the earth, then science tells you that the earth has DNA. And then you look at where the Garden of Eden was, and where they found Neanderthal DNA and fossils in the ground. They're next door to each other. So if God created, now remember, God placed man in the garden, right? He didn't make man in the garden. He placed him in the garden. That means that man was created outside the garden. So you can't make this stuff up. Okay? It's simply let the Bible speak, for goodness sakes. And stop closing your eyes aside, because it's showing you the magnificence of God. Again, I already taught on this. Look at the previous lessons in this series. All right. So let's get into what God did then. So God takes from the earth of the ground, the soil, and God creates man. And looking for the tab. Oh, here it is. So let's see it again. And God said, let us make man. How do we know that there may have been previous man? Because God qualifies verse 26. He qualifies the making of man here. How? Because he doesn't say, let us make man. Let them have dominion over the fishes. You understand? You have to understand English. And let God, God knows English, doesn't he? Do you think God knows English? So, let God speak, for goodness sake. He didn't say, let us make man, period. Because in order for you to say that this was it, this is your God made man here, period, and nothing else before him, then there's no reason not to have let us make man, period. Very clear, and I wouldn't be here talking like this. But because God didn't do that, it means that's not what happened. Simply. People like to put dogma over what the scripture says. And this is not what we do. We let the scripture speak. But you need to understand English or Hebrew or the script so that you can let God speak, because God is speaking clearly. He's not speaking in no mysterious language here. God said, let us make man in our image. See? So again, and after our likeness. So what does that mean? You see? So that's like saying, well, let us make man, in a brown color, with a little wrinkly or squiggly hair. What does that tell you? If that was what the Bible said, would it tell you that there's no other man around? Right? It wouldn't be telling you that. It would be saying that God made a specific type of man. So what is the problem? Why can't you read English and understand that God here is making a particular type of man? Let us make man in our image after our likeness. Okay? And not only that, and let them have dominion. So we see here that God is creating a different type of hominid, what science calls modern man. See? This is not Neanderthal man. This was not the Devisonian man, or whatever that name is, or Halbergensis, or Albergensis, or whatever there is. It's not any one of them. Those could not have, or did not have, dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth. Those did not have dominion. And in fact, those died off. They got extinct. So they did not have dominion. Who is the one that's dominating the planet? Modern man, who has dominion over all the earth. See? So this is a distinct creation. However, it is still a continuance from the original plan. And there you have the reason that God creates man from the dust of the ground. Okay? And that's the reason for that. You have stories about God making two, a lady, a Lilith, and all of this. This is not, and there's reasons that is a story, is really not the truth. There's reasons for that, but we're not covering that. That'll be another video for another day. All right. And again, if he did, she wouldn't have had dominion over all the earth, because that's the issue here, isn't it? But the issue here is making man in our image and our likeness. So once you start saying that God made another being It's not in the image of God and not in the likeness, because God is making a particular a man creation, a man type, as opposed to the previous types. Okay, again, and this one has the peculiarity of being in the image and likeness of God. Now, why should this be alarming or be of particular note? Because people don't understand. If you're in the image of God, think about this. God is the creator of all things, including the angels. If you read the Bible, or if you hear Bible stories, or if you know anything about religious, thought and teaching, you hear this thing about a devil or Lucifer, and you heard the story about what happened. Basically, Lucifer thought that he could be God. Now, why did he think that? And why did the angels that followed him think that? Because one of the things that those angels saw, those angels had to see some God-likeness in Lucifer. And the name Lucifer means light bearer, right? Lucifer, right? So the light bearer. So, and then you read in the Bible that God is light. We'll look at that now. So look at what it says here. Look at here. Look at here. Okay. Then this is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you, that God is light. Let us make man in our likeness and our image, right? Genesis 1:26. So what is the image of God? So the image of God is what he is. In other words, what would be his image, if anything, is what he is. When you say light, you have to understand that light is something that people can see. If we say, well, that's a light, well, we can see that it's a light. It gives light. It's on, So it's a salient quality, the brilliance. It has glory. And so it's bright. And so if God is saying, let us make man in our image and likeness, then, and God is light, the Bible says God is light, then what is he talking about? And then, now when you put two and two together, why would Lucifer tempt Adam and Eve? Why would Lucifer go after Adam and Eve? Right? And I'm going to have to cut this teaching here, right? But I'm going to get into it. But I'm not going to go with full details. That'll be for another time. But why would he attack Adam and Eve? Why would he try to make them fall? What was the thing? Remember who his foe was before. God is light. Now man is made, modern man is made in his likeness, his image and likeness. So now you begin, if you have a brain, to understand why Satan attacked man. Why did Satan come against man in the Garden of Eden? Right? Because man obviously had something that made him jealous. Think about this. Why would God condemn Satan? Because that's the other thing. Lucifer was sent to the earth with his fallen angels. What bright idea was that? So he condemns Lucifer and the fallen angels to the earth. And then, let us make man in our image and likeness. Do you see what's happening here? See? And, well, God had to know that Satan was going to come after man. Yeah. See, you're very close. If you're able to reason this far, you're very close to understanding the Bible, to understanding the why behind all of this, all of these things in Scripture. See? And you understand and realize even greater things that most people are not understanding, even still today. They don't get it. Things that would eliminate most of the religions that are false, that are on the wrong track, because these are things that they didn't understand because they don't put things together. So time is up. I'm sorry, it's always like that, isn't it? When you get into the good stuff. But before I leave, I'm going to show you. I used to have a picture. I don't think I'll be able to. I should have it. But I have a picture, and I do have a video. And I'm going to do this, a video of how things, not obviously not the way it looked, but simply an idea, maybe like 10% of the way things looked. I made a video, and I had a picture that shows you how man may have looked. Not the actual thing. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm only extrapolating, and I'm limited to what we have. Okay, so, but I'm going to end this video with what I can get, and I'm going to have the AI produce some images, and those are the things I will just leave the video with, and that's it. Sometime either myself or someone who follows after me will write about it, will make a documentary of it if I don't do it, and we'll have that. The world will have that eventually. But right now, this is all that I'm able to give you and provide you, and I hope that you can reason and you can understand, make things more clearer for you, and in your walk and journey towards the truth. Okay? So watch right now. Okay, so the first picture I'm going to show you, is hard to find these online because, they have this issue of pornography and whatnot. It's going to be, I'm looking for nude, male, female pictures as a negative. This is educational purposes. All right, so anyway, we got so many children here. But anyway, this is a warning, trigger warning. So I'm going to show you whatever I could find online, and that's that. Again, this is for educational purposes. First of all, we'll do a nature picture and what the garden may have looked like. Just an idea. This is like 10% at most, if at all, so that we can just look at that. Okay, so I'm going to show you that, and I give you a little bit of an explanation. Let me see if we can get that open the image in a new tab. Okay, so again, this is the way we see nature today on the left. Did you see? trees. You see the green leaves, chlorophyll, etc., etc., etc. The Garden of Eden was a sacred space. It was different. And man was made in the image and likeness of God. God is light. So, again, so the idea here is that the Garden of Eden was a different place than even the rest of the earth. Why would it be the same? It would have been different. Man was different as well. But here, in terms of the natural form, let's see if we can get over here. Here is a corner of the garden, one of the walkways through the garden, and this is this is like maybe not even 10%, but it is a place of light and of glory. And so the Garden of Eden, and you can imagine the fruits here, and the things, all the trees were good for eating. It was a wonderful place, a glorious place. But remember, man had no knowledge of anything else. They did not know about this, which to us seems wonderful and beautiful, right? So if this was what Adam and Eve saw every day, it was wonderful and beautiful. It's simply just like you coming from another planet, and that's wonderful and beautiful to you, whatever that is. So it's the same thing. So don't look at it in comparison to what you see now as wonderful and beautiful. This is in its own sense glorious. The light here, remember, is life. The life force. The things were alive. The trees were living life. They were giving life. And if you ate of these trees, they would, they were part of the life force that man also had. So God is light. Man is made in the image and likeness of God. And the garden also exuded that light, and God would come strolling through the garden to commune with man. And God is light, the garden is light. So there was nothing like mysterious for God to be coming through the garden, because God is light. And this is what Adam would see every day. Light. Everything was alive. Everything had light. And even why did Adam see, after sinning, why did he see a difference? Why did he see a difference in himself that he said, oh, I'm naked? Well, what happened to him that he became naked? Okay, I'm showing you here, folks. Come on. What happened to Adam that all of a sudden he was naked? See? And some people, his eyes were open. No, really? His eyes weren't open over here? What, he had shutters on his eye? No, but he wasn't innocent anymore. It's what they teach you, that he wasn't innocent. It's the way we say he wasn't innocent. What does that mean? Well, he had sin on him, right? But what was the reasons of sin? What was the wages of sin? Was it that now you didn't have innocence? Or was it that now you were what? What did God say? That you will lose your innocence when you ate of the tree? No, he didn't say that. He said you shall surely die. You shall surely die. Now, let's look at Adam. Now, as Adam, I mean, look at how Adam and Eve may have looked. I can't find all the pictures I want. I don't have any access to any nude pictures of men and women, or etc., etc. Maybe you guys know where to find them, but I can't find them right now. So, but this is what would be walking in the previous scene in that garden area. This is normal for that scene. Okay, now why am I saying that man may have looked like this, or this is again not the way man looked. The 10%, this is just getting 10% maybe. It's just to give us an idea. What is this giving us an idea of? An idea of, first of all, this is an opposite of a regular picture, right? It's the opposite. So it goes in line with what God said, you shall surely die. When you eat of this tree, that you will be not alive but dead. Right? So then the opposite. So this is why I'm showing you the opposite. Now the opposite of a regular picture of our present existence is this. Now you have to realize something also. When God said you shall surely die, and I've heard someone use this as a posit against my gap theory, not that it's mine, but the gap theory that that evolution, they were dead. The hominids died, and so you have the fossil, and that there was no death before Adam and Eve, right? They say, well, the issue here is that if there was no death before Adam sinned, right? Then did he have fingernails? See, people who know science know what I'm talking about. Did he have hair? See, when you know science, you know what I'm talking about. Because if Adam wasn't dead, or did not have, if there was no death, he couldn't have had hair, not like this, because this is dead. This is dead. That's what hair is the dead cells. You do understand that, don't you? See, so a lot of the people just don't understand it. Then they have beliefs in the Bible that are mistaken because you don't understand reality. You don't understand the world God created. This is dead. So what was it when there was no death? In particular with Adam, because I agree, Adam was not dead. So I agree with that. Not that death wasn't present in the world before, not in the previous world, because that's the issue you guys are not understanding. When the Bible's saying about the world, it's talking about this world, the recreated world. It's not talking about, Genesis 1:1. Okay, but we'll let that go for now. We can debate that. But the point is that then man could not have had this because there was no death. And these fingernails and this are dead tissue. A matter of fact, the outer layer of your skin is dead tissue. Sorry. But that means that Adam and Eve were a different image and a different likeness than we see ourselves and know ourselves to be today. So that means that although this is not it, this is getting there. And this is still a picture, remember, of a dead person. This is a dead man. This is a man after sinning, you shall surely die. That's what this is the opposite of. So we got a long way to go before we get to an actual depiction of what Adam and Eve may have looked like. And again, the image and likeness of God. We got a long way to go. But at least this gives us an idea of light. And that's basically all we can say. Now, since if the hair, this hairy part here, and you see that I have hair here and here, if it wasn't dead, then what was it? Right? If you took a negative of me here, I'm sure there's a filter here on OBS Studio, but if you took a negative of me, you will see that all it is bright white, like that. Again, it's still dead, so it's the opposite of the darkness here, but it's still in a dead form. What would it be if it was alive? Well, look at it. What is moving and animated and alive, not alive like we know it, but at least not dead. what would this be alive and glowing with glorious light? So if you said fire, there you go. This was glorious light. This was just light. Fire, a glowing flame. It wasn't dead. That we know. It wasn't dead. So then all of this here that is now dead in the modern human form was alive and emitting light. Now, even if you think about it, look at where you say that the Homo sapien and the Neanderthal, and going back, if we can remember those pictures here, yes, this picture here, as you see them going backwards in time, you see the hair. Again, where was this evolving into? What's happening here, right? Yeah, but we were getting less hair, less. Yeah, but we also died. You shall surely die. So the hair, again, if it is the light and glory that was getting there in the previous models, now in modern man, it was still there to some extent. We're covered with hair still, so we will still glow. I mean, it's like this woman here. Where is that? Like this woman here, she still glows because there's a light. There is some hair on the body, even though you don't see it. But if it's emitting light, then it is emitting light. It is glorious. But especially with the hair part, this was really just flowing energy, flowing light. It's incredible. It's quite, you will say, oh, that's really like science fiction, right? But I don't think it's too much science fiction. It is interesting that the Bible allows for this idea, because God, in His likeness and image, the issue with Lucifer and the fallen angels, and then the attack, or the Lucifer tempting Eve, to fall, to disobey God. Why so interested in this little thing, this man? Because he wasn't just a little thing. This little guy here, this creation of God, was an affront to Lucifer. You see, it's like God sticking it in his nose, in his face. Hey, you wanted to be me? Look what I got cooking here. And obviously, yes, to bring him to jealousy, to then tempt man and to make man fall. But again, what was God's plan? Again, who's playing the fool? So I leave you with these things to think about. I've been teaching this years now. These are guys who remember me in the early days. You recognize this teaching because this came from way back when. But in any case, I leave you with this thought. When you read the Bible, let the Bible speak. Don't disregard science, because science does not negate the Bible. It just makes atheists run for the hills. Because we're getting there, okay? We are getting to the truth. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. God bless you with my flaming beard, and see you guys next year. Maybe in February, if not March. We'll start again. Take care, and God be with you all. And have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and and be prosperous and healthy. I'll try to stay as much as God has me here. But right now, we're giving up a lot, right? A lot of the things that I was going to hold till the final days, now they're starting to come out. And I'm talking about my final days, not the final days. but my days. Not that someone told me anything bad or anything, but come on, we're a human being. I'm having, little moments here and there. So, the writing's on the wall. And I'm happy. I'm okay, But there's things that I gotta say before I go. So expect some more revelations next year when we get back together. Okay? So I'm gonna let something else go out next year, which is a biggie. Alright? I'll get more into this and more exposing that other truth that's going to really blow up this all this religious gobbledygook out there. So stay tuned. Watch the videos, learn a thing or two, and keep watching. The next year, wow, we're going for a trip. So take care and see you guys next time. God bless you.